a bit less than a metre. We're going to need to have a tidy up. La, 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 la. Oh, we might just get it on the bench. Let's go for it. Hello and welcome back to the workshop. After a bit of clearing up, we've managed to get today's repair in, the Wurlitzer electronic piano. Now, this one belongs to somebody famous. Unfortunately, I can't say who. It's Andy Dawes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Andy Dawes.
So it's coming from a friend of mine, Colin, who is a piano tuner, and it's coming to him for tuning. But apparently the amplifier is very distorted. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, first things first, I suppose we better find out what it sounds like. There's an IEC socket on the back. So let's just plug it in there. I don't actually know whether it's valve or transistorized at this point. And oh, interesting, the IEC goes in upside down. I've seen that before, mind. So I don't really know how old it is. Let's switch it on. Oh, it's going to be transistorized, isn't it? Yes, the amplifier's already running. Now, you may have noticed at this point that I don't have a musical note in my body. So this is very much a mystery to me, but it does sound... There's a vibrato controller. What's that doing? Okay. All the pots want to clean by the sound of it. But it does sound... Yeah, like it's an electric fuzz sort of sound. Two speakers, so is it actually stereo or... I don't think so. I think it is mono, just with two speakers. Oh yeah, that amplifier sounds horrible. Right, let's get into it. I understand there's some screws under the bottom here. I've had instructions, you see. There's some screws under the bottom here, and these two on the top, and then the thing should hinge open. So, yeah, let's have a look at that. Disconnect it first, I suppose. And, yeah, right. So, some screws underneath. Oh, I'm not going to struggle much with this. Right, okay. Yep, there are 3 screws along the bottom here. Oh, quite long threaded sort of machine screws. Where's the camera? I'll just show you, look. It's quite a long thing. Magnetic tray. I also noticed, I did have a look underneath here a while ago, and there's, well, I can show you actually before we take it apart. Ooh, it's quite heavy. There's sort of these triangular mounting plates here for what I presume are legs. There's a rating plate here. It's a Wurlitzer model. Cool, it's a bit indistinct. 2 something. 202 is that? There's a pot on the bottom. I don't know what that's for. There's aux and phones. So it might be the auxiliary level. It's 2/4 inch jacks there, and there's another mounting bolt at the back there. But I don't think we need to undo that one. Right, okay. I understand originally as well it wasn't this wonderful sort of shade of orangey red. It was painted by the owner with a rattle can. I think it did quite a good job, really. I reckon that's British Leyland Vermilion. I had a mini Clubman like that once. Right, that's those 3 undone there. I'm going to need my small adjustable spanner to undo these top ones. Oh, which has got caught up in the tool basket. Oh, that's my big adjustable spanner. Never mind, that'll do. So, could use the proper tool, but that would involve a trip out in the garage, and it's horribly wet and nasty out there today. Careful not to damage this paint. I suspect if it was rattle canned on it, it'll be quite soft. So. And that one's not quite so long as the others. And this bit will be the big reveal. Da, da, da. This washer underneath this bolt is certainly not original. That's got a locking tab on it, sort of thing you'd have on a pot. Actually, they're both the same. That's interesting. Right, the big reveal. Oh, no, hang on. We're going to need to remove the knobs. Okay, one. Are we going to need the piece of wire trick? No, it's going to come off beautifully. Volume and vibrato. Any difference in them? No. Right, okay. Oh, we're away. What am I hitting on? Oh, it's something internal. Oh, no, it isn't. We're away. Good Lord. Okay. Right. Oh. Need to get a bigger workshop. Oh, well, this is quite interesting. I didn't point this out when we first started, but actually without the power connected, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see the hammers operating in there. So this is obviously the amplifier assembly. I'm going to change my glasses over to the near sight ones. Right, it's obviously of some age. We have a Motorola IC dated 1976. We have two. Quite surprised at the package of these transistors. You'd think they'd be the earlier sort. We've got two 35 volt 2200 microfarad capacitors. Again, are they dated? No, they've been in there forever. I think we ought to change those. It does sound like the bias isn't right on this thing. So here's the signal lead coming in. Look, we've got a ground, preamp, we've got a pot, 2, 3. There's a whole rake of electrolytics in there that'll be past their best. So I think we'll be changing those. What are these here? They look like metal film capacitors, so they'll probably be fine. Yeah, there's two little fuses in there, but look at it. It looks very interesting. And in fact, you can see on the amplifier board was originally designed to take some different kind of transistors, and these have been added in. They look factory, but yeah, there we are. Right, let's get that out and get to work on it. It's not actually affixed to there, look. I think it's just going to be quite simple to work on. Right, I suppose in keeping with something of this age, this screw's been out before, and I don't know, maybe it hasn't, but there's sort of screws down the back in between the sort of heatsink here. So let's take those out, and there's some on the PCB itself here. I suspect that'll be it. I don't know, but one way to find out. I don't know what these screws are made of, but they don't appear to be magnetic. Could be brass. Oh no, they are. Well, that one is. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Are they all the same? They are. Lovely. We'll put those in our pot of parts. I have taken a lot of photographs of these wires, just in case we lose one. I'm going to remove this yellow cable tie that's over here. Must say it appears to be very nicely made. I suspect if you were... oh, there's all sorts of writing on the top here. I suppose that's the grade of aluminium. I suspect, you know, these things, they weren't sort of... I suppose they were static, but I suspect also they were used for gigging, you know, carted around the country in the back of a van. Okay, so the output transistors, we've got a 507-661-1 and a 507-664-1 from Texas Instruments. Never heard of them. So there we go. Right, where's this black lead going? That is going onto that contact there. I'm just going to take him out because he's going to be in the way. It seems to go over there. Colin did tell me how he thought this worked, and he thinks the hammer hits a sort of reed, well, a metal strip, which vibrates with a high voltage across it and changes a capacitance, which of course would give us some audio. I'm not quite sure where the high voltage is coming from, actually. Yeah, I mean, there's this transformer here, but, yep, well, right, okay. That's still charged up. Jolly good. What did that hit? I tell you what, doesn't look like there's much wrong with those 3,300 microfarad capacitors or whatever they are. What were they? 2,200, sorry. Let's just have a little look on there. There's only half a volt left now. Well, there we go. They certainly seem to be in sensible condition. We will take them out. I'm minded to replace them anyway. But yeah, seems to certainly held a bit of a charge. I have got it unplugged, haven't I? You just got to check these things sometimes. Yes, we're unplugged. Right, jolly good. Well, that was a bit of a surprise. I've still got to get that earth off there, and it's being stubborn. Let's get a pair of pliers on it. All these wires, they do feel a little brittle, I have to say. So I don't want to mess around with them too much. Right. Let's get a magnifier and just have a look at, see where that wire, because all these posts are labelled. That is pin 17. Oh yes, oh hang on a minute. There is a wire here connected that says plus 150 volts. Well, that's focused the mind a little, hasn't it? So it would appear there is a high voltage, polarizing voltage. I suspect that's what that rectifier's for. So I've got listed in here, I've got minus 22.5 volts, plus 22.5 volts with test points, plus 150, 15 volts. I've got two funny looking fuses in here. Let's have a zoom down from above. I'm going to poke with something insulated. Where's my cleaning toothbrush? We've got two oddball fuses there, sort of copper clad wire around the end of them. Most interesting. And 150 volts to liven things up. Lovely. Okay, right. So I'm going to get these small capacitors out and get them changed. That's worrying in here. Can we see that on any camera at all? Probably not, but that wire to that transistor has been awfully warm at some stage. In fact, I think they both have. I wonder if the heatsink's just got hot over a period of time. Right, let's get some work done. Okay, so I've just put a piece of board here to protect the keys, just in case we happen to get solder splash or something. And looking around the bottom of the board, actually, the pot, which I sort of thought might be a bit of a bias type of thing, is marked preamp volume. What else we got marked in here? Yeah, preamp volume, auxiliary out, auxiliary in. Don't think that's actually connected. Maybe. And there's a headphones out somewhere as well. Plus 150 volts. Obviously, that's the bit you want to stay away from when it's running. Get these capacitors out and changed and see if it sounds any better. Alright, so magnifying glasses on because I can't see anymore. Don't get old, folks. There's a tip. Talking of tips, you'll notice I've got a rather large soldering iron tip there. Just makes it, with this sort of stuff, you can heat both pins of the capacitor up simultaneously and just pull it out of the board, which is very good. This capacitor reeks. Yeah, so I suspect he's leaking. In fact, you can see, and we're going to get that in shot, there is some unpleasantness going on around the leads there. So negative is facing downwards. It's 47 microfarads at 10 volts. Got my capacitors over here. 47 microfarads. Where are we? 22, 33, 47s. And they're all going to be axials, and I want a little radial. There we go. There's a radial. Now, it's a modern part, so it's going to have a voltage rating better than 10 for sure. What have we actually got? Oh, it's 50. And if you compare it in size, it's sort of comparable. We've got plenty of room in there anyway, and there's no harm in going a little bit higher in voltage. All I've just noticed is a wiring diagram behind. Oh, now that is interesting. Yes, those transistors on the heat sinks are original, as we thought. I'll just see if I can get a zoom in on that from here. No, that's the wrong way. It's in the lid. No, I'll tell you what, I'll take a shot of that separately and cut it in. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm just going to clean the holes out. Put a desoldering braid. This stuff is getting very, very expensive now. A reel like that is now about £70 from the usual reputable supplier. I was gobsmacked because it used to be about 30. So there we are. Okay, interesting to note, the markings on the board don't show polarity, so we need to make sure we've got each one right before we take it out. There we are. Okay. Right, he's soldered up nicely. So cutters, the nasty cutters, where are the nice cutters? There are the nice cutters. Snip the legs off, throw the legs on the floor because I'm a lazy so-and-so. They do make a super noise when they go up the Hoover though. Right, that's one down, a few to go. Right, see where we're going next. Right, there's one right down there. That ought to be our next target, I think. So ground this side, earthy side, is upwards. Oh, there's one right tucked against the heatsink as well. Right where it's been hot. I bet he's absolutely cooked. Right. Where should we go next? Let's get that one out next, I think. So, he's going to be stubborn. Let's actually desolder him. There's some more history on this particular instrument. Apparently, it originally came from Studios, and it has an out of tune F, which is why it came to Colin. And apparently the out of tune F was caused by a beetle that got heavy-handed with it. I don't know how true that is, but nice little story, isn't it? Right, that's 4.7 microfarads at 25 volts. So he didn't smell, but he's nearly 50 years old. Let's get it changed. What did I say? 4.7? 4.7 at 25. Right. 4.7s. Plenty of those to choose from. I keep quite a lot of capacitors in stock because those of you that read my blog will know it has to be the least reliable component in any piece of electronics. Somebody commented on the Pi 169 video the other day that said the fewer the capacitors, the more reliable it would be. I'm inclined to agree with that, but let's be honest, it's kept me in a living for 30 odd years. Ah, that's interesting. This capacitor symbol on the board, it does actually show polarity. It's going to be a swine to get in though. I wonder whether that electrolytic being polarised has been an afterthought. And they had a non-polarised one in there to start. This is apparently C8. Oh, is the coal not cleared? We're not getting very far there at all. Strange, looks clear to me. Why is our lead not going through? Let's just poke it from this side just to see if it's blocked with flux or something. No, it's perfectly clear. What on earth's going on? It's overcomplicated by just all these wires being in the way. I don't want to disturb them, really. That's it. In she goes. Lovely. Just notice there's another marking on this board right by here. It says VI. I'm not quite sure what that is. So, that distortion that we heard in the amplifier earlier really does sound like there's some DC where there shouldn't be. It's the sort of sound that gives. So if one of these capacitors were leaky, we could sort of expect that sound. Right, I'm going to go for this really unpleasant capacitor right down by the heatsink next. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to grab that out of there. We're going to have to desolder it for sure. Okay. Right. See if we can tug him out the top. Well, we've knocked him over. That's a start, because I can grab hold of one of the legs now. I don't suppose you'll be able to see much. I've probably got my head in the shot half the time. There he is. Okay, and he is 22 microfarads at 25 volts. And again, polarity is marked on the board this time. Doesn't smell very nice, but no signs of leakage from that one. 22 mic, 25 volt. 22. So 22 microfarads. Oh, this one's 50 volts. Look at the size difference. Yeah, quite something. And yet it's twice the voltage. It's also rated to 105 degrees, this capacitor. Generally, that's all I keep in stock, unless I struggle to get them. You know, especially where this one lives, right next to the heatsink. I mean, it's going to have a longer life expectancy if it's rated to a higher temperature. Capacitors generally come in 88 and 105 degree rated temperature, that is, degrees C. So, yeah. I've spec'd the higher ones for years now. Ever since a certain Panasonic video recorder started suffering in the 80s, I suppose. There we are. Let's solder him up. That wasn't too bad, was it really? Considering its unpleasant location. If you do happen to take a capacitor out and you fail to notice which way round it was, don't handle the capacitor very much. Sometimes you can tell, or at least make a reasonable guess as to which side is dusty. If it's, you know, on its side, so dust has fallen on the top, you can make a sensible, educated guess, which is good. All right. I think which ones we've done now. So we've done that one against the heatsink, that one there, that one there. Looks like this one here in the middle will be the next favourite. Let me just see. Just check the polarity. Ooh, it's Earth towards me. Right. On the negative pole towards me. Of course, it might not be Earth. Especially as we're in a split rail system, where we've got plus and minus 25 volts. 22.5, sorry. Okay. And yes, interestingly, that one again, I don't think is marked. Well, there is a plus there, but it's on the end of a resistor. How strange. We have 1 microfarad at 25 volts. Right, 1 microfarad at 25 volts. This one is 1 microfarad, 250 volts. That's a bit silly, isn't it, really? In fact, that shouldn't be in this box. This box is just for capacitors less than 100 volts. What's this one? 1 microfarad at 50 volts. That's a bit more sensible. Okay. Well, that's just fallen into position. Very helpful. This capacitor here, can we see that? Underneath that red wire, I'm concerned about. it's soldered onto the end of a resistor. Is it a capacitor at all? It is. So, he looks horribly distressed. So, it's an axially ended component, and up is ground. So, let's disconnect him from the resistor. Which is going to be easier said than done. Come on. There's a hell of an overlap in there. Have they twisted it or something before soldering? Okay. That's that out. Where is its positive end? I'm thinking it's probably that. Oh, he's really distressed. Very shrunken jacket. Is the camera going to focus? Yes, it is. Can you see the jacket shrunken away at the positive end and at the negative end? He's really been unpleasantly abused. It is. Oh, look at the jacket on the side of there. So, go on, focus. You know you want to. It's split all the way up and exposed the aluminium in between. So. Good. What's the betting that's our fault? It was 25 volts at 4.7 microfarads. So I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to have that sort of style. But of course anything new is going to be smaller. So that does allow us a little bit of leeway. Now we're not going to have anything that's the right shape. But I can simply do that. I'm just going to clean that up. I love it when you find a smoking gun like that. If that capacitor isn't the fault, you can guarantee it's not performing as it should. Originally that resistor wasn't in circuit. There was a marking on the board just for the capacitor. So it's obviously been a design change somewhere along the line. Just solder that bottom in, then we can make a tidy job of the top. Lovely. That big tip really is working well. Wouldn't want to do surface mount with it. Although, having said that, it's it can be very useful if you're lifting an IC off sometimes to use a big tip, because you can, say an op amp or something, because you can get all of the pins at once and just flick it clean off the board. Right. Not that we get much surface mounting here, of course. I'm just going to bend the top of that over. I'm going to cut this a little short. Lovely. I'm going to bend it over, and then we're just going to solder those two together, and that makes a lovely tidy job. Very pleased with that. Okay, what does that leave us left? That leaves us this purple one in here and the two main electrolytics, which sadly I don't have in stock. I've got some 25 volt part. I've got one 50 volt part, which would be lovely, but of course I need two. And I've got some 25 volt parts. You know, I appreciate the rail is only 22.5 volts if everything's working to spec. What happens if our mains is a little bit high on the input voltage? It doesn't leave enough safety margins, so we're not going to put 20 to 25 volt parts in. That's just asking for trouble. So what we'll do is, because there was no mains hum as such, which is, if these two were failing, you'd sort of hear that. They were quite quiet, and of course when we put it down we got a flash, so that's good. Oh, this has had it as well. He started to ooze the nastiness, so he can go. 100 microfarads at 25 volts. Yeah, what I'll do is we'll test it for now. I will order the correct part and come back and fit it. Okay. Here's our 100 microfarad capacitor. Just looking at this electric piano, actually, I wonder if it's the same as same type as seen on the Blues Brothers in Ray's Music Exchange, where he has there's no action left in this keyboard. Great line, great film. So many different cuts of it as well. The film, there are there's one where the Bluesmobile parks inside a substation. I saw many years ago. I may have that on DVD actually. Great film. Okay, I'm just going to put this ground lead back in. I'm going to put the 4 screws back in because I don't want to risk shorting out that 150 volts again. And we're going to give it a try. So we've recapped the amplifier, and funny thing happened. I switched on and it didn't sound very good at all. Then all of a sudden the fault went away, and it sounded great. So what I've done is I've obviously exposed a little bit more of the mechanism so we can see that doing its thing. It appears that we've got these little reeds. I wonder if that's the actual sound generating bit. It would appear so. And there we are. Anyway, there's this auxiliary circuit board in the middle here, and it's shown on that paper label. And this is where our 150 volts comes in, and it's 15 volts, and there's a few other things. And there's a little transistor amplifier in there. And sure enough, look, there are 3 electrolytics in there. So I'm just going to investigate removing that, and we'll recap that, and then see what it sounds like. In fact, let's just try it again now. It should still be, yeah, all horribly distorted. In fact, without that shield on, it's picking up quite a bit of hum as well. So that's horrible. So let's get that top circuit board out and change the capacitors in that. So there are 2 sort of nuts there, and then that comes out of the reed bar. So I'm just being a little bit cautious here, because I don't want to disturb this reed bar if at all possible. Right. I think the best thing to do, so see this screw here, you can see that on the camera. Let's zoom in a little. There we go, so we can see the circuit board here. This screw looks to be in at a fairly jaunty angle. So I need to be cautious when removing this, not to sort of damage it or the bracket, or I've got the choice of taking those 2 screws out of there. This is quite a heavy cast thing. I am minded to just remove those. I think what I'll do is, unless it's 4BA, which I doubt, it looks too big, Unbelievable. It's not. It's 4BA. Okay, so let's pull that out of there. So yeah, I reckon that's actually not only just a mounting screw, I think that's an electrical connection as well. Hence this end is marked up reed bar and this end is marked up ground. Yeah, look under there, there's a washer of some description. I'm surprised that was 4BA. Can't judge things in my old age. And we'll remove the ground from there. The insulation on these wires has become... Oh, where did that go? There it is. It's become very stiff in its old age. Right, okay. So I'm just going to put my bit of bubble wrap and protective wood. That's the shield from the top. Presumably the reason they've put this amplifier up there is because this, if this works how I think it works, which is a polarizing voltage on this bar here, which is connected to our reed bar, and the reed is in between it. The reed is struck by a hammer, and the hammer vibrates the reed, and that changes the capacitance between the reed and ground. So yeah, you can pull a signal back out of that. Oh, I'll tell you what, something I've just noticed. Is that the dodgy air? It is. If you look at that, that ground wire is in the way of it. I wonder if that's why it's out of tune. I might move that in a minute. In fact, let's move that now. See if that F's still out of tune. Yes, it's still out of tune. Jolly good. Shows what I know. Right, let's stick to the stuff I'm good at and take these capacitors out of here and swap them over and see if we can sort that out. One thing I will just check before we go any further is that 150 volt rail isn't. Somewhat caught out with that before. Right, that's ground. That's the reed bar, and that's 150 volts. No, we're quite safe. Nothing left in there to give me an unpleasant surprise. Jolly good. Okay. Right. So this first capacitor, polarity appears to be marked on the board. Plus facing me. Oh, interestingly, it's marked on the bottom this time as well. Okay. Smells funny. What is he? 4.7 microfarads at 25 volts. Oh, let's have a look in the box. 4.7, 25 or better. Plenty of those to be going around. I utilise my blob of blue tack to hold the board in place while we make the solder connections. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, what's next? Let's get that big fella out of there. Again, polarity of this one is marked on the board. 22 mic at 25 volts. Just clear those holes out. Managed to pick a 16 volt one out. Try again. Strangely enough, that one's a bipolar. What's that doing in there? Right, 22 mic at 50 volts going in. And late. One third and final one, 4.7 microfarads at, again, 25 volts. He's just underneath him there. So that one in our pot. Okay, 4.7, 25 volts. Doesn't look in very good condition at all, that one. Okay. One blob of blue tack back somewhere safely. Put that over there. Let's put the two 4BA screws back in. And I just want to put those in with a pair of pliers. That does want to be reasonably tight, that, so we get a good electrical connection there. Right, back in place. Let's plug in and see what occurs. Low gain and unpleasant. Now this is interesting. This probe here is not being a scope probe at the moment. It's connected to my function generator. That's supposed to be a sine wave, and let me tell you now, doesn't sound like a sine wave to me. However, a second ago the fault cleared itself. It's not going to do it again now, is it? And it sounded perfectly. It lost all that raspiness. That's very interesting. So we have some sort of intermittent fault here that we need to investigate further. Right. That's supposed to be a sine wave, and it really isn't. It's very unpleasant indeed. But here's the thing. I think we've got a thermal fault. Or at least a thermally aggravated fault. Because beforehand I could squirt stuff and it would change. It would be a sort of crackle and a pop. And it would put itself right. There we go. So we can hear that tone has changed. There it goes thin again. I think it's these transistors at the rear here. Right, I'm going to take those out and have a look. I'm especially... oh, let's turn that down. I'm especially suspicious of TR14, which is right at the back in there. So, yeah, let's take it apart again and have a little look at those transistors. Right, I'm just running some more tests. So we have this scope probe feeding 1 kilohertz into the amplifier. Scope is connected to the output of the amplifier. So there's our ground reference. Let me just switch channel 2 off. Make things a little easier to understand. There's our ground reference in the center there. But watch this. So there's our DC coupled output. And you'll notice it's only ever swinging upwards. And in fact, if I increase the volume, you can see that's where our distortion is happening. We're getting no negative swing at all on the amplifier. So that's the problem. Interesting thing is, this is only happening intermittently. Right, so let's see if we can find out what's going on. So that heavy sort of swing, obviously we're swinging positive here very nicely too, but negatives, nothing's happening. So I've disconnected TR13, measured that, it's all good. It's being driven by this driver transistor, TR12. Okay, so I've just removed TR12 from the amplifier onto the peak transistor analyzer. No component detected. Oh, I can detect it. It's hanging on the end of my test probes there. But electrically, it's missing. That is very much faulty. Excellent. Now I am just going to remove the pre-driver transistor TR14 just to make sure that one's all right. But yeah, that's faulty. It is a 203718, which according to my equivalent sheet is an MPSA 56. I'll have a look, see if I've got one of those in a moment, but if not, we shall order such. Let's just take out TR14 and have a look at that. Right. Okay, it's extract TR14. I obviously haven't desoldered that enough, have I? That's it. TR14. Make yourself known. Right, I should just pop it on the peak. Analysing. Diode or diode junctions? Oh. So there's nothing connected to the green lead. We have some damage, you know. Oh, it's not hooked in very well. Let's have another little go at that. Diode or diode junctions. So, TR14's a goner as well. I think we are going to need to change everything in that negative rail just to be on the safe side. So everything in that negative sort of side. So TR12 we know is open. This one is partially open. And don't forget, before the fault became permanent, this was working. So yeah, there we go. And do I change TR7 as well? Do you know, for the sake of it, I think we ought to. I'm not sure I have any of the relevant parts in stock. TR7 is a PNP transistor, roughly equivalent to 2N5087. And actually looking at that, I think a BC557 will work in there. So we can put one of those in. TR14 is equivalent to an MSPA 06 NPN. That's half an amp transistor, that one. Maybe a 2N something or other. I'd rather order the right thing, I think, for these. And the driver transistor, TR12, is an MPSA 56. Again, PNP, look. So, yeah, I think we'll get the right things for those on order. And then we can sleep soundly in our beds at night. While we're in there, I am going to order those capacitors as well. Where are they? The big smoothers. That IC, by the way, is a little regulator. Look, fantastic. Where are the big capacitors? Oh, there we go. 2,200 microfarads. Yeah, and those are at 35 volts. So we'll order some of those as well. Here we are. It's a week later. I've been shopping. So we've got some of these MPS type transistors. I did have some in stock, all of the wrong type, as usual. No matter how many thousands of transistors you stock, you've never quite got the right ones. So the first thing we need to replace really is TR14, which is an MPSA 06. So now it does state on here that they are equivalents. The originals are Wurlitzer in-house numbers, so we won't have those, obviously. So Wurlitzer just brought in some transistors and relabeled them in effect. But I am just going to check. MPSA 06, lovely. I'm just going to put it on the analyzer and check we've got the right lead out. And check it's actually a blasted transistor. These unfortunately had to come from eBay, and I do dislike buying components off eBay. But unfortunately, none of the usual or reputable UK suppliers had them in stock. Or not in sensible quantities anyway. I think I could buy sort of like a reel of 1,000 if I wished. Which was sort of silly. Right, so emitter should be blue and red should be the collector. We'll just push test. It is an NPN silicon transistor. TR14, where is it? It is an NPN transistor. So that's good. So scroll. Red is my collector, correct. Green is my base. Blue is my emitter. It's exactly the right part. What else does it say? It's got an HFE of 192. Yeah, okay. That's all good. So that's TR14. Let's just slot it in. These failures we're seeing in these transistors, it does remind me of, if you read the website, I think it was a GC television set we'd had, colour set. I've still got it, in fact. But it had taken out a bunch of lock-fit transistors, and they were a sort of similar failure. And I don't know what kills lock-fit transistors, but they're not. Well, they can be very unreliable these days. But then again, you know, getting on for 50 years old, some of these things. Some of them. I think a GC television set was a lot older than 50 years. So it's unsurprising that maybe the transistor's encapsulation is starting to let it down. And that was the other thing I noticed with this amplifier. Not only were freezing making a difference, but actually clipping scope probes onto it was making a difference. And it was a bit like Schrodinger's fault at one stage. When you measured it, it went away. Quite amusing. But it wasn't, didn't stay that way. Of course, eventually it went permanent, and I don't know if the transistors failing took what, you know, one was sort of intermittent and one was permanently at fault, and that did damage to the rest. I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't matter. These transistors are not expensive. Just put my board back in there just to protect the keys. There we go. So it's a soldering iron on. Oh, it was on. Silly Billy. So, yeah, I don't know whether it was a sort of cascading effect that caused one was failing intermittently, or that second transistor came out in sympathy. Who knows? But let's change them and move on in life. There we go. That's one in. Okay. Right. What was the other one? TR12. Was it TR12? Oh, TR12 indeed, which is a MSA56 PNP. MSA56. eBay seller. Clear plastic bag. Good eBay seller. Pink anti-static bag. Poor eBay seller. Ordinary plastic bag. Take it out. I'm sure they'll be fine, but not good practice, is it? If these were little CMOS FETs, or ordinary FETs, I think we may have a problem. Static can damage that sort of thing quite easily. Oh, these have had their legs bent. You can just see that there. They've sort of got a quilled front base leg there. That's going to be awkward, but we'll soon straighten that out. Right, if this is the right thing, then we should see a PNP transistor. The collector should be blue. If we can get that lead on that. Now, let me get this right. It goes in that way. Yes, the collector should be blue. Emitter should be green. And the base should be red. Push test. It's a PNP transistor. We're off to a galloping start. Right. Red is the base. Correct. Green is emitter. Correct. And blue is collector. Correct. Can you see that? Just about. Lovely. So, that's good. HFE of 84. MPSA 56. Oh, okay. They're quoted an amp. That's, yeah. HFE might be a bit low on that one. Should we have a look at another one? Just to be on the safe side. According to my sheet, it should have an HFE of 100, and that was an HFE of 84. Will the game make much difference? Ooh, in that location? Where are we? TR12. That's the driver transistor, but probably not in that situation. Right, test. It's analysing. It's PNP. HFE and 94. Well, that's better, isn't it? We'll use that one. Leakage of nothing. Right, it's all good. Peek over there for now. We'll put that one back in the bag. Straighten the legs a little bit. Hopefully we can get them in the hole now. This is probably where you don't get much of a shot on camera, because you get the back of my head on the overhead camera. And my arm in the way on that camera. Really need to organise some sort of overhead light. I can't use the magnifying light that I've got to my right here. It's quite simply, it gets in the way of the camera, look. I don't know. We can sort of use that a bit. If I only stay in one place, I'd be a happy man. There. Oh, that's not so bad. I can see a little better now. Perfect. Okay. Point. Right. Okay. So that's those two transistors changed. TR7 I've actually changed for a BC549. TR8, here's the negative feedback transistor. Could be alright. Okay, so that's TR14, the pre-driver changed, TR12, the driver changed, and I know for a fact that the output transistor is good. So let's set the scope, etc. back up and put it all back together and see if we've cleared the fault. Right, so test setup as before. Signal coming into the amplifier here is 1 kilohertz. Volume control is currently down. The oscilloscope is connected to the output and showing on the display there. So let's power up. I can hear a test tone coming through. Let's turn the volume up. And we are... oof. We are very much swinging both positive and negative cycles, look. So 0 is in the middle, and you can see the traces going up and down. Beautiful. Sine wave looks good. Doesn't sound distorted. That's connected to my workshop test loudspeaker. So yeah, that's good. So let's connect up the piano part and see if that sounds all right. Yes, if I could play anything, she'd have been impressed. There's a bit of hum coming through. You can hear that changing. It's because the hum shield's currently off. I can't play any tune at all. So, oh, that sounded quite good, didn't it? Vibrato's working as well. We can see the effect of that on the scope trace. And it's you can see that scope trace looks a lot less distorted than it did previously. I'd like to give the world a home. Anyway, there we are. That's all about Doz Knows About Pianos. So let's see if we can't get somebody on the phone that can actually give us a tune on this and get Colin in to tune it to that Dove F. Yeah, which is that one there. And we'll go from there. That may be a second video. Right, good, all working. There you have it. Thanks so much. If you've got this far in the video, we're over an hour in now. And thanks for sticking with it. You deserve a medal, you really do. 401 subscribers. Thanks to every one of you. And if you do like what you see on this channel, please click like, subscribe. Come back, because next week there will be part 2 of the Wurlitzer 200A piano repair, I suppose, because Colin has agreed to come round and tune it on Monday night. So we'll get him on camera and we'll look at how to tune this wonderful instrument. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Cheers now. We are looking terrible on the hair department, but that'll do. Oh God, that's even worse. Right. Hello, and welcome back to... Let's do that again. It's first take, and it's all gone to pot. But today we're going to be looking at this wonderful Wurlitzer electric... And welcome back to the workshop. Today... Right. Now, it's toad. Oh, let me reheat that. Where are we?